Hey guys, welcome back to the Family Stars podcast where we talk all things precision rifle. For those that are new, we got a couple different versions of the show. Sometimes I like to bring on guests and that are doing some exceptional things, and we have some conversations about what they're doing. Other times, like this episode, try to bring you some helpful information and talk about what I've experienced, what I've learned, and what the business has going on. So I love doing the show for you guys. I love hearing back from you guys and all the feedback. All I ask in return is support the business and or share the show with someone. We're just trying to get the information out there, and I appreciate you guys. But first things first, this is what I'm super bummed about. So team shooter Matt Caruso won K&M this past weekend, the PRS match, and I'm so excited. It's Matt's been crushing it this season and got a big win. So we're celebrating. And if you use code Caruso, that's CARUSO on the website, we're running a sale 10% off the site wide through this weekend. So it's been really good working with Matt, and he's anyone that knows him, he's an incredible human being and an incredible shooter, and super happy to be working with him. But I'm excited. We're excited. We're celebrating and passing some stuff on to you guys. But this episode we're talking about NRL Hunter. So last week we had Dan Harright on and kind of talking about some, NRL Hunter a little bit, and Dan's doing some really cool training stuff, and I've been shooting with him, but I want to kind of get into what the NRL Hunter is, how you can get involved with it, kind of what some of the gear that you may use, and some things like that. So NRL Hunter, simplified, it's a competition series, a long range precision rifle competition series that's based on hunting scenarios and building your skills to quickly and efficiently take game at longer distances. That's the whole premise of this series. Um, I think some people get tied up too much into the fact that it's quote unquote a hunting series and start going down the rabbit hole of all this other stuff. But the reality, it's a competition series to shoot steel, but it's to help you in your hunting endeavors. Uh, so they're all blind stages, and what that means is you can't see where the targets are or where you're shooting from or what you may have to shoot off of or something like that. And you when it's your turn to go, you have a certain amount of time and you have to find the targets, range them, get your data, and then engage those targets. Okay, and we'll go into it a little bit more, but there's either going to be one, two, or four targets per stage, and they make it pretty simple. If there's one target, there's four positions, and so you'll find it, and then you'll shoot from four different positions. Or there's two targets, two positions, or four targets in one position. So the way it works is, they'll kind of have a staging area for everyone to hang out at, where you can't really see what's going on. And then when it's your turn to go, they'll call you up to a certain point and they'll say, all right, you ready? Okay, your time starts now, and you'll go up. And there's generally, a little bit of a jog or run or whatever up to where you're going to start. And so I'm going to have this on the audio format and on YouTube. So I am going to have some gestures and stuff if you're more of a visual person, I want to have this on YouTube. But there's going to be a sighting stake, and generally they color all of the sighting stakes a certain color, and so that is where you'll set up your observation. Your binos. You get your tripod set up and your binos, or however that stage is set up, and then they're going to have out in front of you. They're going to have a left limit stake and a right limit stake, and when you are set up directly over your sighting stake and you make a triangle out to those left and right limits, all of your targets are going to be within that. And so you start glassing and you can work left to right or right to left or however it's going to make sense for you and what the stage is and all that. But so you uh, start finding the targets you can. And so for individuals, and we'll get into like divisions and how all that stuff works. But for individuals, you get 4 minutes for the stage, and for teams, you get 6 minutes. And you can ask yes and no questions to the ROs that are there on the stage. And so, and honestly, it's very helpful to ask questions. You can't ask leading questions of, hey, is target 2 on that ridge or next to that tree? Because the ridge could be huge or there could be 50 trees out there. And they'll either not answer you or say, I can't answer that, or I need more information or something like that. But if you say, hey, is target 2 next to the dead tree, 3 o'clock from target 1 next to that pile of red rocks, that's very specific, and they'll be able to say yes or no, and you continue on. And so you can work very well and ask good questions if you think about it the right way. And so once you find all your targets and you have your ranges, you have your dope and all that, you're gonna move to your, if it's not that, if your sighting position isn't your shooting position, you'll move to your shooting position and start working your way down. It's a 2-1 dead target scoring system. And so what that means is if you hit that target on your first shot, you're going to get 2 points. If you miss, you re-engage that target, and if you hit it, you get 1 point. If you miss it the second time, you get 0 points for that target and you move on to the next one. Or if there's only one target, you move on to the next position. And so the max you're gonna shoot per stage is 8 rounds, and the minimum is 4. And so the faster you hit targets, the less ammo you're gonna use. The less targets you hit, the more ammo you're gonna use. But it's rewarding first round impacts for each of those targets. And that's honestly the gist. It's a pretty simple system. You run up, find them, find, range, and engage, and that's just rinse and repeat for all 18 to 20 stages, whatever they're going. But it becomes really fun. There can be interesting positions that you may have to build, or finding targets can be really difficult depending on what they are and where you're shooting and stuff like that. But we'll get into that a little bit more. But there's a few different ways to get into it. They have a handful of divisions. The first one being factory. So the factory division, it has to be an unmodified factory rifle as it comes from the factory, under 12 pounds with everything put together. Yes, bipod scope, all that stuff. And if you go on the NRL website, there's a list of approved manufacturers that qualify for a factory division rifle, if you're concerned about it. So your rifle has to meet what is called power factor. And so power factor is your bullet weight times the velocity in feet per second. And it's a minimum of 380,000 power factor for NRL hunting. And so the kind of the gist behind that is you can't come in and use like a fast light 6mm or something like that. You're going to be using a more stereotypical hunting style cartridge that's going to have a decent amount of energy downrange. And so what it boils down to is essentially you have to shoot a 6.5 Creedmoor or bigger to meet power factor, and it's not hard to meet it. And so for example, a 140 grain bullet going 2,715 feet per second is pretty much right at the limit for power factor. Now, factory rifles don't have to meet the minimum power factor, but in all cases, whether you're required to meet it or not, your power factor is taken, and that is used for tiebreakers. So if at the end of the match, you and one other person or 8 other people or whatever have the exact same score, as in you hit the same amount of targets, then they're going to take your power factor, and whoever has the highest gets the first that top spot and moving down. So factory doesn't technically have to meet power factor; it just has to be an unmodified factory rifle under 12 pounds. So then there's open light. Um, Pretty simple. There's no gear restrictions, and it has to be under 12 pounds. And if you're watching on YouTube, so I've got my open light set up behind me, and we'll go into it a little bit. But open light is pretty fun. I shoot a lot of PRS, and I have been shooting a lot of PRS, and personally I wanted something very different, so I wanted to compete in open light. I do have an open heavy setup that I'm working on, just to shoot like a match or two next year for fun, and it's going to be another uh, hunting rifle. It's already done, but I'm going to change. So it's chambered in a 7 PRC, and I love it. But West Texas Ordnance can't develop the 25/7 PRC, and it's stick, and so I'm gonna have a barrel done in a 25/7 PRC and shoot a match or two next year with it. But so then open heavy is and sorry, in an open light you have to meet minimum power factor. And same with open heavy. The only caveat to that is if you're shooting factory ammo in a 130 grain bullet or heavier, obviously you don't have control of the speed that it comes out of your rifle. And so if you're shooting factory ammo, you don't necessarily have to make power factor, but again, it will use a tiebreaker. Open heavy, same thing as open light. There's no gear restrictions, but the rifle weighs more than 12 pounds, but it's under 16 pounds. And so all rifles have to be under 16 pounds for NRL Hunter. Factory is under 12, open light is under 12, open heavy is under 16, and then teams, it's teams of 2 people, and then the open heavy rules apply. And so both guys just have to have rifles under 16 pounds. I think I haven't shot teams yet. It's something I want to do next year. I think it looks like a ton of fun. But you get 6 minutes instead of 4 minutes on your stages, and you and your teammate work through the stage and find all the targets, and both of you shoot them. So then the last division, and I think this one's really cool. I think the NRL did a really good job coming up with this. It's the skills division, and so skills, you can come and shoot whatever rifle and whatever cartridge that you want to shoot. The overall rule for cartridge restrictions that it has to be 30 cal or smaller and under 3,275 feet per second, and that's for all divisions, including skills. Essentially, so you're not coming out dicking up all the match director's steel and breaking targets and causing match delays or whatever. But so skills, if you have Grandpappy's 30-06, or you have a PRS rifle or whatever, you can come out and shoot that gun and not have to worry about it. And you're going to get a lowered entry fee to shoot the match, but you're not going to be eligible for to track your points for the NRL season, and you're not going to be eligible to walk the prize table at the end of the match. Now, if you're getting into it and you want to just see what it is, I think it's totally worth it. Generally, it's going to be around like $150 or something for the weekend, and the skills, give or take $20 or so. And it gives you a good opportunity to not have to go, buy new gear, come out and try a new shooting sport, and you can get help from the ROs on the stage. So the whole goal of this is to invite new shooters into a comfortable setting, and you're not just diving into it. So if you're on the fence, just find an NRL match and sign up in the skills division. Everybody and they'll and so when you come up to the stage, the ROs will ask like, hey, who's in skills, because they want to know so they know that they can help you. And then also the other shooters like in your squad and everything, they'll everyone wants to help. They want you to be successful, and they want you to have a most of all, they want you to have a good time. Um, it and I'll get into it a little bit more, but NRL, it's been a blast shooting. Like I've had a ton of fun, and this is a really fun way to go shoot. One, just as something enjoyable to get out and go do on a weekend, but also just making yourself a much better shooter and a much better marksman. So if you're on the fence, sign up for skills, or if you want to go into it, I mean, sign up for any of the other ones and track points and go for the series. And so they run their season from the first of the year through it's like June or July. I can't remember the date on the last match. And then there's the finale that they call the Grand Slam in August. And they take your top score from the season, and there's a certain number of spots that get invited for the championship. And so I think there's I think for this year they're doing 180, and I think there's 140 spots that are allocated between all the divisions. And I look through it, and it's all just a percentage, basically. How many open light shooters uh, were registered throughout the season, and compared to the total number of shooters signed up, and then they allocate that many spots per division and so on. But then then you get to go to the championship and try and win the series, and so it's pretty neat. So to kind of go down the list of equipment that I'm using this year, so the rifle's behind me. So I'm doing a Lone Peak titanium action with a switch lug from West Texas Ordnance, and it's I love this action. It's my first titanium action, and it's unbelievable. I like it. Then it's got a 20-inch proof carbon fiber barrel chambered in 7 saw, also from West Texas Ordnance. And I've got a without warning TMB Gen 2.5 with a lightweight tuner delete nut on it. If you haven't been listening to the show, I am a huge fan of the without warning brakes, and they're the best brakes on the market. And now the Chads are about to start shipping, and I can't wait. I went. I think I have enough weight left over in this rifle. When my Chads come in, I'm gonna take this off and make sure I still make weight. But I'm pretty sure I will, and I'll probably switch to that. Um, oh, and so I see this especially on Facebook a ton. People go back and forth on brakes versus suppressors. Realistically, it's totally a personal preference on what you're going to use. Shooting with a suppressor it's awesome. It's easy on you. It's easy on the people around you. I love hunting with suppressors. Um, I've hunted with brakes and with cans, but I will say for a match, a, a brake is by and large the better option in my opinion. It just tames recoil so much better, and especially when you start getting to brakes as efficient as the TMB or the Chad, uh, it's a totally different ball game. It's going to mitigate recoil. It's going to be a much sharper, shorter recoil impulse, whereas the suppressor is going to be a longer, slower push and not reducing the recoil as much. Like I said, it's personal preference. It really doesn't matter, but people get kind of hung up on this for some reason. Shoot whatever you want, but my recommendation for a match is a break. Then it's in a NDT Hunt 26, and I went with the folder option just for convenience of hiking around or whatever. I can throw in a backpack. And if you can see on the YouTube, I got this badass Cerakote job done a couple weeks ago from West Texas Ordnance, and they freaking killed it. I love it. But anyways, that's just I'm very happy with how it turned out. Then I'm running a Vixen Andy Tac Sport Pro trigger. It's before they switched to the Pro X, but Vixen Andy triggers are phenomenal. Running Hawkins heavy rings. And so before we get into the rings, if you couldn't tell, titanium action, carbon fiber barrel, carbon fiber and magnesium chassis. I wanted this rifle to be as light as possible because the accessories that I was putting on it are heavy or heavier. And there's a reason I went with them. I think they're worth the weight. But it's something that I don't see. I'm starting to see a little bit more of it, but a lot of people still get super hung up on, saving an ounce here and there. But there's something to be said of the use and the quality out of some of these little bit heavier items. So I'm running the Hawkins heavy tactical rings on this, and the main reason is I've got this diving board up on the front, and it's great for putting your hand up there, and depending on what position you're shooting in, it's a solid way to help tame the recoil. And then I'm running a zero compromise 4-20 on this one. It's literally my favorite scope on the face of the planet. I don't know why the 420 is so awesome. I mean, I love the Zucos across the full range, but I love the 420. It's just a short, compact little scope, and it's badass. And by the way, zero compromise scopes are now live on the website. So if it's something, they're amazing. You won't regret it. If you've got questions, call me or email me. But they are up on the website. Super happy to be a Zico dealer. Moving on, and then the last thing, I've got an MDT triple pull SkyPod on the end of it. The SkyPods, I think, are the best bipods out right now. I use a single pull for PRS, and I got the triple pull for NRL hunter and hunting. I will admit, it's a lot of bipod. It's pretty big, and I would say probably not something that's totally necessary for everyone to have. But if you want the most capable bipod ever, the triple pull is it. And for those that haven't seen it, so you can move them forward and back like a standard bipod, but then you can also move the legs in and out so the stance narrows. And then the triple pull has 3 leg sections. And so it goes up to 36 inches, and you can essentially take a kneeling shot with your bipod. And so it's great for if you need to get over tall grass or something like that. You can set up the tripod and use a tripod rear support, or like if you've got a rock or a hay bale or something like that, you can rest the front of the rifle off the front of the object, run your bipod down to the ground, and put a bag under the bag and shoot modified prone off of damn near anything. So they're great. Or if you're like a predator guy, a predator hunter, they're pretty awesome. They are a little heavy, they're a little big, but they're badass. So then what becomes a little bit more, I guess, unique to NRL hunter is you've got to have a tripod and binos. So this season, I have been using the switchback tripod from Vortex, and I honestly really liked that tripod. And for those that haven't seen, it's a pretty affordable option. I think they're $600, and it's a three leg section tripod. It's nice and light. It folds up pretty compact, and for a carbon fiber tripod, it's fairly affordable. So and it's got a pretty good head on it. So I use those. I've been using that all year. I just picked up this Really Right Stuff two-piece inverted tripod, and that's what I'm going to be switching to. I've been wanting one for a few years, and for it should they're just unbelievably sturdy. They are quite a bit more expensive, but if y'all want a really really nice tripod, the Really Right Stuff tripods are tough to beat. But this two-piece inverted is just it's super quick to deploy and super super stable. So I'm switching over to that for NRL Hunter and PRS. And it's going to be my new hunting tripod. So uh, really really digging it so far. Then so binos. So getting into um, so you have to have something to range your targets. You can If you are just getting into it and you want to try it out and you have like a pair of binos and a rangefinder, don't worry about going out and buying range finding binos. Like just go out and come out and shoot skills and kind of get the hang of it before and see what you may like or what you need. You can try out other people's stuff. If people are willing to, let you check out their stuff. If you ever see me at a match, you're more than welcome to use any of my stuff. But range finding binos, I think, is a must for this series. And range finding binos with a ballistic solver on board is even better. It just makes everything incredibly fast, and for real hunting, it's going to be very useful and quick when time's going to matter. So there's a few different options. I'm using the Swaro EL ranges. The glass is amazing. It's their Swaros, and the rangefinder is pretty solid, and I haven't had any issues with them. And I've been pretty happy with it. I am going to change mainly. I just have I have a ton of binos and all this stuff, so I'm kind of consolidating. So I'll be changing out some things later this year, but um, the Swaro EL ranges are a very good option. There's a set from Leica that is also really good. Then the SIG 10Ks have been out for a while. My opinion, the glass was terrible with the blue, but their system was phenomenal. And now they have the Gen 2s out that address the glass issue, and I think they're going to be probably one of the most popular options available. Um, we are a SIG optics dealer, so if you want to pick up a set of the Gen 2 10Ks, let me know. I think they're going to be, from what I've seen, I think they're going to be a pretty solid option. And then there's the Vortex Furies. And so range finding binos with a ballistic solver can get expensive pretty quick. It really just depends on what kind of budget you're looking at. The Vortexes are probably the most affordable option, and that they're about $1,500. You go up to the SIG 10Ks; those are going to be $2,800. Then there's the new Vector X's that are out. Those are going to be $2,800, depending on what options you get. That's what I'm going to be switching to mainly because I do too many styles of shooting, and it does everything I need it to. And then you go up to the Leicas, and those are $3,300, and the Swaros are $4,000, somewhere in there. So it all just kind of depends on what your budget is and what all you're wanting to get out of them. I think they all have their pros and cons, but range finding binos with a ballistic solver is the way to go. It just makes makes everything great. Then I'm carrying everything in the Armageddon Gear new bino harness, their big game bino harness. And so for those that haven't seen, Armageddon Gear has launched a hunting line, and it's pretty awesome. I don't have all their stuff in, but I really wanted to try out their bino harness. So I got it last year when it came out. I used it all through the hunting season, and I've used it all year for NRL Hunter, and I absolutely love it. I wanted to try it out for a while before I put it on the website. It is going up on the website. It's so in the big game harness. It's got it's and this is what it's kind of a throwback to that classic hunting look, and it's a wax canvas, and it's just it looks badass, but it's incredibly well made. So it's got a harness for your binos with a magnetic closure, and then it's got pockets on the either side of that holds a kestrel perfectly, or if you've got pins or whatever, then it's got a zipper on the front. So if you uh want to put papers or a map or whatever in there, and then it's got two larger pockets on the outside. You can fit a water bottle in both of them. So if you want to carry water or a game call or whatever it is, but I've been very impressed with it so far, and like anything Armageddon Gear puts out, it's just really well made, and I think they priced it really well. I think they're $200, but check them out. They're you won't be disappointed. Then lastly, I use Weebad tater tots for my shooting bags. I carry um, my heavy sand fill one, mainly because it's a competition and they're just a lot more stable. And then I also carry my tater tot with the ultralight fill in it. Um, so in PRS, I use the heavy sand for positional and the lightweight one for a rear bag. And I essentially kind of do the same thing with NRL Hunter, but I carry both. It just for whatever reason, if I need two bags or stack something up, I've got them, and it can fill a space. And the light one is incredibly light, so it's not really a deal to carry it. Then I use a Gray Ops tack plate on top of the tripod, and so there's a few different everyone kind of does things their own way, but what I like to do is I just carry the tack plate on top of my tripod. Then when I get up to the stage, I'll pull it out, I'll throw my bag on top of the tack plate, throw my binos on top of the bag, and I glass from there. And then when I'm done, I can pull my binos off and then just put my gun back up on top of the bag, and it's just shooting positional off the bag if I have to shoot off a tripod. So uh, Dan Hera that was on last week, he's working on some new lightweight tack tables, and I've seen the drawings of them. I think they're going to be pretty solid. So I'm gonna get my hands on one of those whenever he gets a run made. But and that's a personal preference. Other people just they'll run the Arca clamp mounts on their binos, and you can clip that in when you're done, unclip it, put it up, and then directly clip your gun into the tripod if you need to do that. It's a personal preference. Mess around with it, see what you like to do. But so now that I've been shooting these for a bit, and gotten to really kind of dive deep into it, kind of going over some of the stuff that I've learned and that I've noticed for NRL Hunter. So the one of the biggest things is gear management and being quick and efficient. And so every time you run up to a stage, you need to, being able to get your bag off, get your tripod out, get your glass set up, and start glassing for targets. The quicker and more efficiently you can do that, the better. It's just going to buy you more time to try to find the targets, and then once you find the targets, have time to build good positions and not be rushed. Um, Obviously, that correlates to hunting. If being able to, if you see something, be able to get up, set up, range, and engage it quickly if you need to. The thing that I've really noticed with NRL, and Dan put it the best last week. It's the best way to train long range hunting, short of you being somewhere in a field and someone said it, like letting an animal loose. It's pretty cool. I mean, you're going blind and you have to find something, range it, shoot it. So it's pretty cool. Then so like I said, you're gonna have your sighting stake and your left and right limits. Whenever you get set up your glass 100% direct over the top of that sighting stake, because whenever the match director sets up that sighting stake with the limits, if you're 6 inches off, left or right of the sighting stake, your angles to those limit stakes has now changed. And if one of the targets is towards the edge of one of those limits and you've now moved it, you may think a target is in that's not actually part of your stage, or the target that is part of that stage you may think is out and doesn't count. So just set up over it and you'll be able to find everything. Then being familiar with your rangefinder and the hotspot, where the laser is actually hitting a reticle for your rangefinder. And so for those that don't know, if you put your rangefinder on a target or an animal and put the reticle directly in the middle of it, just because it's in the middle of it doesn't mean that's actually where the laser is hitting. There's going to be, generally it's off a little bit. So like for mine, it pops up the little circle reticle, and mine is at the 6 o'clock edge of that circle. And so you just get familiar with it. Go to the range, and or you can step outside on your house, your street, or whatever, and do it with a stop sign. But what you can start above it and start ranging and working your way down, and you can see, and when it finally hits it, you can see where it is in reference to that reticle. Then go below it, start working your way up, do the same thing, and then start from the left of it and work right, and then start from the right and work your left, and come in from all four sides. You can see where it starts hitting, and then you can find where that hot spot is. And the reason that makes a big difference is if these targets are smaller, or it's skylined, or it's obscured by some brush or a tree or something like that, knowing exactly where to put that matters. And so, you can try to range the target, the base of the T-post where it goes in the ground. There's a handful of different ways that you can make sure you're getting an accurate range, but being familiar with how your rangefinder works is a must. So then positional shooting or shooting from a tripod is a must in an NRL hunter. What I've found, so with my history in PRS, positional shooting is pretty easy for me. I hadn't shot off of a tripod much. And so that was something I kind of had to work on a little bit. Now, because I end up just putting a tack plate with a bag on it, it's essentially shooting positional off of a bag. So it ended up being not a big deal. But if it's something you've never done, like if you always just, like if you shoot out of a window of a box blind, or you always shoot prone, you need to get some practice of building a position off of the bag, whether that, because the thing I do think match directors and NRL hunter have done a pretty good job of is, making you think of in how to build a good position. So you may have to shoot off trees or rocks, or let's see, and I'm not trying to make it sound like we're doing like poaching, but like I know like some of the stages, like there was like some fences, but there's a whole bunch of different stuff, and some, you may be on a hill, or shooting, the hills, shooting downhill, and Shooting prone might not work, so you got to shoot off a tripod and being able to get your tripod height the right way, and any combination of those two. But you got to figure out how to shoot off of a tripod and a bag really well. And one thing it kind of made me laugh is I've talked to some guys that uh, they can shoot off a tripod like a madman, but then you try and uh, put a bag down and shoot off a rock, and they're wobbling all over the place. Um, and so it just you got to get familiar with both, but it's just get some practice, and it's not too terrible to get it figured out. Then, so your shooting positions are always marked, and so whether you're going to have one, two, or four positions to shoot from, it'll be marked. And the rule with an Earl Hunter is that you have to be within like arm's length of the shooting position, or you have to be able to, if you're set up there, you have to be able to reach out and touch it, like if you with your hand or your foot or whatever. What I've seen a lot of people do is the mark will be right here on this on the edge of this rock or whatever, and they set up directly on top of that mark because in your mind that is the shooting position. But it rewards people that can critically think and figure out that they have to be within an arm's length of the spot, but maybe be able to build a better position. So that's one thing I think you should really keep in the back of your mind. There's a lot of stages or scenarios where you can set up prone and get a much more stable shot than having to fumble around and dick around with getting exactly on top of the mark that someone put, or just setting up a tripod next to it or something like that. And so something to keep in mind, but you just have to be able to reach out and touch the shooting position, and just don't settle for a shitty position if you can obviously build something a little better. But then the biggest thing is, man, it's just so much fun. It's a very challenging and educational way of shooting, being having to find range and engage targets. And the big difference for me shooting a lot of PRS was, so in a PRS match, you were just 100% focused all the time. And if you're not shooting, you're behind glass and you're talking to people, and you're kind of like, what all is going on? In NRL, it's the exact opposite because you can't see what's going on. So really, there's nothing to do until it's your time to go. And so you just get to sit around and bullshit with your friends and people that you meet at the match and talk about hunting and shooting, and it's awesome. I've met some really cool people, and you just get to hang out and talk, and it's very low stress, and it's just a good time. The the thing, and I'll this is just my own personal little thing. People get so tied up in PRS is better and NRL is better or ELR is better or whatever. Competition dynamics matches are. Everyone's allowed to have their personal preference of what you like to shoot. That's totally fine. I personally prefer to shoot PRS matches because it's extremely competitive and there is a high level of precision. That's just me. I'm a ultra competitive person. I also love the NRL Hunter, and listening to people say, "Yeah, NRL Hunter is better. PRS shooters are douchebags, or they're a bunch of assholes, or oh, you get to sit around and talk your win the whole time, so it's you kind of sound like an idiot." I'm just gonna be honest. Shoot them all. It makes you such a more well-rounded shooter, and you're gonna, if you get really good at PRS shooting light recoiling rifles, at itty bitty targets, you may not be good at finding targets or not being able to watch someone build a position, and you got to figure it out on your own, and vice versa. Just because you can find targets and shoot them pretty well doesn't mean that you may be able to hit 100 1-minute targets in a PRS match. So it's just, anyways, just don't be a dick. We're all doing the same thing. We're having fun, but I highly encourage shoot both. I've had so much fun shooting both this year. I absolutely love it. But NRL Hunter, it challenges a totally different skill set from PRS, and so you've got to be able to glass pretty well. You got to know your rangefinder. You got to be able to get dope on the fly and make an educated win guess or an educated guess on your win call on the fly, and then critically think through of how you're going to set up all this stuff and remember where the targets are and all this stuff. It's just it's so much fun. If you have questions or want to ask me stuff about NRL, feel free to give me a call, shoot me a message on social media, shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to try and help, walk you through what I've learned, or if you have questions. We're going to have some more people on throughout the year involved with the NRL or shooting NRL, and try and get some more information out. But it's been a blast. There's Yeah, I'm not even going to get into that. But if you're looking to get into NRL, give us a shout. We've got great 6.5 Creed ammo, um, stocks, chassis, optics. We're getting some of the new SIG 10Ks. We're going to try and get some of the new Vector X's. Um, then for my guys that are varmint hunters, 22 Creed ammo just went live on the website. And I'm working on a load for the new 62 grain and 80 grain ELDVTs from Hornady for the 22 Creed and the 6 Creed. And those will be available soon. And also the 87 grain VMAX for the 6 Creed for all my varmint guys. So, guys, I super appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. If you have any questions, uh, shoot me a message. So it's Phalanx Arms on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And then it's Mike at phalanx-arms.com for email. And then the number is on the website. Give me a call. Happy to help. And thank you guys. Don't forget, we're running the celebratory sale for Caruso crushing it at K&M. We use code Caruso on the website for 10% off. Thank you guys. I love you guys. I'm ROing the NRL Hunter match in Brownfield at Caprock Rifle Club. The match director is Clayton Smith with West Texas Ordnance. It's gonna be badass. I hope to see you guys there. See y'all next week.